So yeah, this is the most common lien mistakes and how you can avoid them. My name's Alec Mattis. I'm a construction payment expert here at Level Set. I've helped thousands of contractors protect millions of dollars of payments with avoiding these common mistakes that we'll go over today. I really enjoy coming to work because we do get people the money that they've earned. It's not always that there won't be payment, it's that there's slow payment, and you want to make sure that that money's protected. Um, a little bit about level set before we dive into just the mistakes and kind of going over the informational things. We help contractors get paid fast by protecting their lien rights. We make sure that you're tracking all your deadlines, everything's being researched, and that if there's any issues on the project, that you're escalating it to the correct parties. And as Barry put it here, level set gets us paid faster, and now they can focus on customers instead of late payments. It's all about transparency, having communication rather than issues arising down the road. But today, definitely going to focus on the four most common lien mistakes that we see. One being filing a lien without lien rights. Two, filing a lien with the wrong information. Three, filing a lien after the deadline. And four, not providing a warning before filing a lien. Well, these are the most common. There's obviously more that goes into it. I do have a few bonus ones that I'll throw out at the end right before we do questions. So if you stick around, go over that. But if you cover these four, you should be good to go. But always want to make sure that you're staying on top of everything. So the first one we're going to dive into is going to be filing a lien without lien rights. So this is right at the beginning of a job, depending on what state you're in, what your role is, what's required to protect lien rights is going to vary. So first off, you could come to Level Set. We have a ton of FAQ pages per each state on what's required, when it's required. You can look into your state statutes as well, but it's very important to know what do we need to send to protect ourselves so that that way if there's an issue down the road that we know that we've done everything we could. So if you're a sub, a supplier, or even a GC, whatever that requirement is, you want to make sure that you're covering that at the beginning and it doesn't come back to bite you at the end. Mistake number two is going to be filing a lien with the wrong information. So if you know that you need to turn in maybe a preliminary notice or a notice of furnishing or notice to owner at the beginning of a job, it is very important to know who that needs to go to. So in California, for example, it's going to be, if you're a sub, it needs to go to the GC, the owner, and lender, if any, on that project. If any of that information is incorrect, you could be throwing away all your lien rights right there. So knowing what you need to send and then searching all that information, just make sure, whether it be through deed search or a contractor database to know who's on the job, or requesting it from the GC. Some GCs will withhold the information, so you want to research it. And even sometimes GCs will give information that's wrong, or an owner, if you're working direct with them, may just be a tenant. Just double check all of that so you know you're turning in the right stuff to the right people so that it's all covered and you're checking all the boxes. We do have a research team here, Scout Research, in case the legal property description is required. States such as Ohio or a Florida or other states that require legal property description. Again, you have that first layer of knowing who the owner is, where the mailing address actually is. You need that legal property description. We do give that with our Scout Research team. You can come to us and get that information, or just doing some more research on your end. Again, making sure what's required, what do we need to know here, and making sure you're checking those boxes. So lien mistake number three is going to be missing your lien filing deadline. So at this point, you know what you need to send, who it needs to go to, everything's correct. All the leverage now is sitting on when the deadline is. You do not want to let that pass, because once it does, again, you might have turned in your preliminary notice and now you're past a certain date and you cannot file the lien. So making sure that you're either calculating it, putting it on a calendar. We are going to share out our lien deadline calculator to make sure steps aren't missed, but make sure you're marking it and make sure that if you're getting to that point that you're having communication, you know what's going on and you're not just letting something pass and then after the fact trying to go after your money. And then mistake number four, and this kind of goes into knowing when your deadline is not providing a warning before filing a lien. Some states require this, such as like a Colorado, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and others. Whether it's required or not, sending out a notice of intent to lien is very effective in avoiding having to do a lien altogether, and also speeding up your payment and not having to get to that point of causing an issue. We did a survey where we found 47% of construction companies who send out notice of intents got paid within 20 days from sending that notice. And our users who have notice of intents built in, we're sending those out and getting paid 90% of the time within the 90 days of sending it as well. So the point of that is if it's required, send it out, make sure you're checking that box. If it's not, an owner prefers to get a warning rather than being combative if a lien is just put onto their property. And they may not even be aware of who was on their property or who was still owed money if they're only communicating to a GC or if you're further down the chain as a supplier. So that warning shot helps and is a lot of times required as well. So those are the 4 mistakes. So with that, I'm going to dive into the product itself. I know those are 4 quick things to avoid. If you have any questions, please throw them into the chat. But with that, I'm just going to go here and show y'all the actual system itself. So here's our platform. Right off the bat, whether you're on retail or partnered with us, we're going to have our insights here. So that's our data to avoid an issue that might be arising on a project that you're also on. Most times, companies don't like talking to each other about a payment issue they're having on a project. This is one way of seeing if a lien's been filed or if other people are turning in notices on that project. And then this is just a project that I threw in here for California, just reiterating and going over what exactly we do on our end. This is something that could be built out internally. And the most important steps are right here. Your payment is not protected. It's going to be due in 3 weeks, keeping it on a calendar, knowing what's required for California as a subcontractor, knowing when the deadline is here. And then again, the escalation of a notice of intent to lien sits right here for you as well. These triggers all turn from blue to yellow to red as you get closer to the deadline. Again, leveraging the fact that you're aware of what you need to do when you need to do it to speed up payment. And if a lien had to be filed, that you've protected that amount. So creating the notice itself, come in here. The first step is sending out that preliminary notice. Sometimes contractors I speak with, they don't always want to send something out because their relationship with the owner or with the GC, they don't want to burn it. Putting a friendly cover letter, letting them know that you're just turning it in because you have to protect your payment, is one way of just alleviating that and letting them know that, hey, we're just taking care of what we need to. Very excited for the business. The next step, like we covered, is knowing who the property owner is or knowing everyone who's involved. If you have ours, you can just throw it in and use the property owner that we have. If you have one, we'll double check it. And then if you know the lender, also throwing that in. Again, like I said, those are the 4 most common mistakes. This is one that's kind of a bonus tip. Everything that's required needs to be sent certified mail so that even if someone signs for it or doesn't, there's proof that it was sent. So it's very important to be sending a certified mail, getting those receipts, as well as when someone has to sign for a document, it becomes more real. Go next here. You can always rush it and then standard. Again, this is knowing what state you're in, what the requirements are, and how close you are to that deadline for if you need to rush it or if you can just send it standard mail. So with that, everything's been sent on our side. We're tracking it. Again, if you're doing it in-house, make sure you get that certified mail receipt. You're keeping track of it and you know who it went to when they received it. In the system, you can see your payment is protected, but we're still tracking the lien deadline here. So although you've protected your money and speeding it up, if there is an issue that arises, you can escalate it right here with the notice of intent to lien written up by an attorney or file a lien itself if you're getting near that deadline point. And this would be in our system how you'd view all of your projects that are ongoing, not just one in one state, and making sure that you're covering everything that's required. Again, if you're doing it in-house, making sure that if it's a different state, you really read up on those laws and you don't fall into one of those mistakes of not knowing what's required or who it needs to go to. This would be the way of coming in and saying, what have we protected, what have we not? And just making sure you're staying on top of it all. So with that, I want to turn it over to some of the questions that are in the chat. I'll pull that up. And then a big bonus mistake that I have seen is that when filing a lien, making sure that you do it in the correct county recorder's office where the project was actually at, not where the business may be for a commercial job or where your business is. It's going to be important to know where the project is. That's the county where it needs to be recorded in. So I'm going to pop up the Q&A. So this is from Lance. Is there specific language such as referring to lien action that must be in the original contract in order to file a lien if the client doesn't pay? So it's specific language for if it's a preliminary notice in California, if it's a notice to owner, it's specific to those states and it's referring to, it's not in the contract, there's a separate document. If it's more of a contract, we do have what's called legal guard. You can have your contracts reviewed or go to an attorney and review that contract. When it comes to protecting lien rights, that's a separate document that does have it written in there that although you never expect to have to use the right to file a lien, you have protected your right to file a lien. And that has to be in there. And then when it comes to original contracts, that's more of getting a contract review. Um, Elizabeth, I handle our company's preliminary notices myself, send certified mail with return receipt. Does that make a problem with filing a lien with level set? No, you can still come to us and file a lien. We always prefer if it's in the system because then we see what it was. But if you come to us and you just want a lien filed, we'll file that lien for you. And then it sounds like you're pretty read up on what the requirements are. So you could always just come to us and we'll file a lien from there as well. Let's see if the chat has one. Is it possible to file a lien too early? So in most cases, again, I'm not an attorney, I can't give legal advice. You could go to our website, ask a question, get an answer within 24, 48 hours from an attorney in your state. But when it's possible to file a lien too early, that'd be if you're burning a bridge or if you're really not getting paid. A lot of times, this is when I'm working with a supplier or a sub with concrete pouring or doing the concrete itself. Being on a job early and it's still ongoing and not being paid, you're going to want to just make sure that you're not, you could send a notice of intent, but a lien could hurt the whole project and burn some bridges. But legally, that'd be a question you could put into our expert center as well. And then how does Scout Research work to find info we need for our liens? How do y'all get the right info? So that's a team that's doing that in-house. It's not robots. We have a database. We have people who are calling around to make sure that we know if it's a bond, specific who the bond is to, what the bond claim number is. But that's something where you could call to title searches. But internally, they're doing all those steps as well as accessing our databases. Michelle, do you also file the release of lien once the payment has been received? Yes, we file those as well. We also have a ton of resources if you wanted to take the template yourself, but when it's filed and then you go to release it, it's also within the same process. If we can e-file it, we will do it that way. But yeah, we love doing release of liens because that means customers are getting paid. Do the notices help even in states where you don't have to send them? Yeah, so if it's not required, I know we covered the lien mistakes that could happen to protect it. Sending out a preliminary notice allows the owner to know who's on their project, as well as on the GC know if you're further down that you know what you need to do if there are issues. So it's not about just fully protecting it. It's having transparency from the beginning so that, again, if there are issues, that it's being talked out rather than just letting it sit there and then being more combative at the end with someone. Does Level Set work with our other accounting? So we integrate directly with QuickBooks. We're partnered with Intuit. The easiest way is if it's not that, you could do a CSV export to import to get it into the system. Obviously, if that's an interest of yours, you can reach out directly to me or anyone at Level Set. Be more than happy to show you it there. So can you discuss how you go about releasing the lien steps? So if a lien is filed in a county recorders, that's filed there. A release is sent to the same county recorders to release the lien of saying that this has been paid for, and the release is off of it. It's similar. It's just showing that legally it's been paid and you're wanting to take it off. That step is very similar to how we do filing liens as well. It's just a different document to release it instead of placing it. If you're already past lien rights, can you still try to file a lien? A lien can still be filed. When a lien's filed, three things are going to happen. Either the owner will pay the contractor and the contractor can release the lien, or the owner can challenge the lien and take it to court, or the contractor can enforce the lien and take it to court. If it's past a deadline, sending a notice of intent we find does work. But when it comes to placing a lien, maybe going to our expert center, contacting an attorney, or you could use Legal Guard with us as well to have an attorney look into it. So while it's not a best practice to miss your deadline, filing it after could have worse repercussions than just not getting paid, but sending a notice of intent sometimes can push payment out as well. Do liens expire? Liens do expire, so that's gonna depend on what state you're in for how long out it will expire. States like I know California off the top of my head, you could extend it with the agreement from the owner if there's something going on, but they will be set to expire at certain points. But it really varies state to state. I would highly recommend going to Level Set and just looking up the state that you're thinking of in there, and then that's where you'll get all the pertinent information for it. But generally speaking, it does expire. How much time do I wait if I haven't been paid to file a lien? So that's going to depend on on your relationship with them. A lot of times when it's thought about going to lien, it's someone's either gone dark or said they're just not going to pay. Depending on that situation, California has, generally speaking, from completion of a project, 90 days to file. So a lot of our clients, if it's 45 days, they might want to be sending a notice of intent or to actually file the lien itself. Again, depending on where you are with the deadline upcoming, notice of intents are very effective. Um, and then filing the lien, that's something you just have to look into for what the amount is. And if you want to write me directly, we could definitely dive more into that situation. But generally speaking, staying in front of that deadline and not letting it get closer than probably 15 days would be best. But again, contact the owner, anyone you have above maybe who hired you, to see if that's time to do it. How does it work to send a lien through level set just one time? So this is probably going back to if you file prelims on your own, you come to us to do either a notice of intent or to just file the lien. You come on, it's a set retail price of $349. Our research team will research it again just to make sure that we're turning in the correct legal property description, who the owner is, and all of that included. We send that certified mail or e-record it with the county recorders. We notify all the pertinent parties that a lien has been filed. You get all the copies of that, and we take care of it on our end and make sure that it's done correctly. So from your end, pretty seamless, and we show you everything we're doing as well. James says, I currently use level set for all my intent to lien and liens. Awesome. That's great. And I assume you're sending out some sort of letter beforehand and get to the point of intent to lien and liens. Curious. Yeah. And he received payments right away. Thanks, James. Yeah, what we do works. Whether you use level set, I always say we didn't invent lien law or liens. We just perfected it and streamlined it. Following the steps, whether it's with us or on your own, does get contractors paid. So that's great to hear. I mean, that's why I love what I do. So thanks for coming, James. But any other questions from anyone else while I'm here? If there are any other ones, you can write me directly or come on to level set, whether it be resources or helping with actually filing things. We're more than happy to help. All right, I'm going to give it one more minute here, and then I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Again, if you have any other questions, send them over. But I appreciate everyone's time for coming on, looking into it. I hope you took away the 4 mistakes here. Again, the goal isn't to file liens. The goal is to get paid fast and protect your money. So taking those mistakes, writing them down, keeping track when lead deadlines are, making sure that you know who exactly they need to be sent to, will help keep you protected. Yeah, so the first one is just knowing what the requirements are in your state. So we'll share out the lien deadline calculator and we'll share out some FAQs. But the first step is knowing, do you need to send anything in the state that you're in? And the second one is coupled into that, who it needs to go to. So the first step is knowing what you need to do and then following those steps. And then obviously we'll make sure to send out this recording, especially if you have anyone in office who wasn't able to attend, or if you came in later, had those issues, we're going to share this out too. But are all of your advisors knowledgeable of each state's procedures? Yes. So Yolanda, we have, if you put a question to the expert center, it's going to be an attorney in that state who works in construction, who knows what's required there. Put it in there, you'll get the best answer, as well as if you go to levelset.com, look up any state requirements, and they're right there for you as well. And then if it's something very specific, that'd be more legal guard, we can match you up with an attorney there too. All right, perfect. Well, again, thanks y'all for your time. Any questions, let me know. And I hope this helped everyone out.